NFL training camp is one of the more exciting points of the season where football fans are excited about the preseason getting into full swing. Fantasy football leagues are starting to heat up around the world. And then you also have clips coming out, you have news coming out, you have contract negotiations, and you have injuries that completely change the NFL landscape like we weren't expecting. We have a lot of players that Paul out in clips running good route, and people think they're the next coming of Randy Moss. Meanwhile, we have a coach talk about a player that he's going to have a big time role and no one expects it, but he somehow has a great season. Training camp is a great point to gauge where players are and where we can expect teams to be focusing on heading into the season. We know that training camp does have a super big impact on finding out which teams could potentially break out during the season, leading to a better year than they previously had in 2024. So let's break down this video of the 5 things that I think are worth noting during the first week of training camp that could change the course of the 2025 NFL season. What's going on, everybody? My name is Ryan Linkletter. I'm here today to talk about these 5 storylines in training camp that significantly could impact the 2025 NFL season. I want to start off in Los Angeles, and it is heading to the Los Angeles Rams. Matthew Stafford so far has been limited with back soreness in camp. Now, we know Matthew Stafford has had a lengthy injury history. We've seen him miss a ton of games throughout his NFL career and miss big time that ultimately has kind of cost his team in some situations. Now, the team's backup is Jimmy Garoppolo, and Jimmy Garoppolo has been a serviceable option at the quarterback position, but he's no Matthew Stafford. And in a really tough NFC West with the San Francisco 49ers, the Seattle Seahawks team that looks rejuvenated this year, and a Arizona Cardinals team that could fly under the radar this year, the Rams need to be at full strength in a tough NFC. Matthew Stafford missing any time could ruin the Super Bowl team's window where they have a lot of veterans like Devontae Adams on this roster and ultimately could change the course of a really solid looking Rams team into a team that is really disappointing and one of the biggest surprises of the 2025 season. Matthew Stafford being healthy is one of the most important things going forward. And if his back soreness does not go away, I don't see a version of this Rams team that can compete with the big dogs of the NFC and go out there and win a Super Bowl like a lot of people think they can this season. If Stafford is able to go and he is limited with no back soreness and he plays a full season, I think this Ram team is in good shape. But if Stafford were to miss time, this Rams team would definitely not be in the same position as they currently are. And that window could significantly close with no veteran quarterback potentially behind them that can step in and win with this, let's say, win now roster. In Kansas City, the second storyline I think we need to talk about is the offensive line shifts. This team has struggled at the tackle position for quite some time now. The Chiefs have had a different starting tackle every year of Patrick Mahomes' career, which is crazy to think about at this point. You have Josh Simmons coming in, you have Jalen Moore coming in, and they kind of replaced the interesting parts where they had DJ Humphries mixed in there last year. Wanya Morris, Jawan Taylor's obviously been a right tackle for them for multiple years, and it's been a common theme at the position where penalties, bad pass blocking, and really not sufficient enough run blocking has cost this team and changed the outlook of a Chiefs offense that went from the most explosive in the NFL to a team that looks very above average at this point with the best quarterback in the league, the best offensive head coach in the league, and a future Hall of Fame tight end while having a really talented receiver group. Now, the left tackle position seems like it's been solidified in training camp. First round pick, Josh Simmons. Josh Simmons was the 31st pick, and partly due to injury, Simmons was one of the higher graded tackles in the draft class, and a lot of people thought of them as their tackle number one, but injuries forced him to slide to Kansas City at the back end of the first. Meanwhile, the team signed Jalen Moore from the San Francisco 49ers, who has been the swing tackle for the 49ers behind Trent Williams for quite some time, can play left tackle or right tackle. And both those guys are pushing to compete for starting roles, where Josh Simmons has been the only tackle to take snaps at the left tackle position. Meanwhile, Jalen Moore and Jawan Taylor are in a dogfight on the right side to compete for the tackle one spot. And this competition has me excited about the Chiefs offense being back. They feel so strongly at the left tackle position that newly signed free agent Jalen Moore does not even have to worry about competing for first team snaps because Simmons is in such a good spot. You look at some of the training camp clips of Simmons absolutely dominating in pass pro, it makes you excited that the Chiefs offense can get back to where it was. And even on the right side, it's a good thing. I think Jawan Taylor is a okay player. The penalties are annoying. He's he's just an okay player. Like, he's not horrible. He's just not great. But Jalen Moore pushing him could result in a solid competition that forced the Chiefs to have the best offensive line combo they've had at the tackle position in a few seasons, which is nice to see, returning potentially the Chiefs' glory days in that passing game, which is exciting. I already mentioned one significant injury, but I think there's a few I want to touch on that could impact each of these teams. The Houston Texans is the first one. Joe Mixon has been placed on the non-football injury list, which means he could miss potentially the first week, but is not guaranteed. Like if you put somebody on the pup list, he has an ankle/foot injury that is bothering him still from last year. Now, Mixon, on the other hand, is an older running back who hasn't necessarily been super efficient. But the Houston Texans behind him have a combination of Nick Chubb, Dameon Pierce, Woody Marks that haven't necessarily proved to be great in the past few seasons. We all know Chubb has had an historic career, but Chubb didn't look great last year. Dameon Pierce hasn't necessarily showed much in the past few seasons, and Woody Marks is a rookie. This Houston Texans team is going to need a run game to really keep teams off balance and prevent a weak offensive line from teams teeing off on them by just pass rushing, which is going to be something to watch. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have some significant injuries to start the season. Both Chris Godwin and Tristan Wirfs were placed on the pup list, and this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team has a rough defense, which makes me a little bit concerned. Now, I know they have Emeka Egbuka, who they drafted, and they still have a lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball, but missing your star tackle and your star wide receiver is not a great way to start the season. The Bucs could falter because of that. This NFC South division, yes, is weak, but the Panthers are going to be improved this year. The Falcons are going to be improved this year, and the Buccaneers get off to another rocky start. Who knows if they're going to be able to make the playoffs in a tougher division than it has been in years past. The other one that I think is interesting that we need to watch just a little bit is the San Francisco 49ers situation with Brandon Ayuk coming back. Now, they do have Jawan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall, who I do believe will slot in nicely so far for their team. But I think that, Brandon Ayuk provides a different sort of element to this team that Jennings and Pearsall don't. Ayuk is incredibly good after the catch. He's so good vertically that this team needs him, especially with Deebo Samuel being gone. Samuel provided so much with his offense, whether that was through the ground or after the catch, that Ricky Pearsall and Jawan Jennings haven't necessarily proved in their career. And I think Ayuk down the stretch, when healthy, could provide that this coming season. Well, and the good news, though, Stephon Diggs is healthy. He reported Luther Burden is healthy. And I think teams that are getting guys healthy are going to be in a good spot. Like their young quarterbacks, Caleb Williams and Drake May, getting some of their weapons healthy is a good thing, and getting that continuity up. The Patriots is a great example of a team that now has Stephon Diggs, Pop Douglas, Hunter Henry, all three weapons that Drake May has had a little bit of continuity and time to work with now, and could lead to a sneaky offense in New England, dare I say, heading into the year, versus if Stephon Diggs landed on the pup list, missed some time, wasn't ready for training camp, I wouldn't necessarily be as high on this New England offense as I am heading into this year. Next one is positional battles, and this one's a common theme among training camp as we see a lot of these positional battles that I think are going to make a big impact on these teams. I think Dante Thornton from the Raiders is the one that I really, really am excited about. The guy is 6'4" and runs a 4.39 40. He is a playmaker, and that's exactly what this Raiders team needs. Kobe Myers doesn't necessarily stretch the field like Deontay Thornton can. Brock Bowers, the same thing. Thornton could provide a different element to this Raiders offense that looks a lot better heading into the year. Now, I know they have their problems defensively with Christian Wilkins now not even on the team anymore, but I think that the Raiders offense could provide a little bit of shootout value and make them an interesting play in the AFC West. And you have the Packers wide receiver room where Jordan Love looks to, take another step after a down year last season. Matthew Golden has been turning heads already, showing off his elite speed and versatility. In a wide receiver room that has currently 12 guys competing for spots, I think that Golden has proven a little bit that he could be that alpha in this receiver room, and he could earn snaps right away in week one, which is something that I was not expecting out of the gate. Jaden Reed looks like he's going to be the player that takes a back seat, which is intriguing. I think Reed is a solid gadget player, and if Matt LaFleur knows how to use him nicely, I think that this Packers offense could be cooking in the passing game just a little bit, which is nice to see. As far as Indianapolis goes, we all know the quarterback battle in there is going to be interesting. I think AR is fine. He's a really good prospect, has no production on the field, but I think the time has run out. He's had a rough start to training camp, and Daniel Jones is the guy that could slot into the role. And I think in the AFC South, where you have the Texans, the Jaguars, the Titans, and the Colts, obviously, you have to feel confident about your chances of competing for a division title outside of Houston. All those three teams really had their rough points in the 2024 season. Getting Daniel Jones in as a starter in week one could be the best case scenario for a Colts team that has the talent to compete and made some moves in the offseason like they want to compete. In Shane Steichen's final year, that Daniel Jones week one is a realistic option for this team with AR start to camp. I think that's one that we definitely monitor. As far as the Browns and the Saints quarterback battle goes, not necessarily really looking into it too much. The Browns, obviously, with Joe Flacco, could be, flash in the pan, win 5 games, really solid season. Versus the Saints. Saints are brutal, man, right now. I mean, even after the Honey Badger retirement, this team is going to be tough to watch this year. I know they're in the NFC South, and it might not be as prominent as, the AFC North, but the Saints are in a really rough spot this year. And whether or not Spencer Rattler or Tyler Shuck suit up as quarterback, this team is not going to be in a great spot offensively. As far as the backfield battles go, the Cowboys seem like they're leaning more Javonte Williams' way, which could be interesting. This team already made a mistake of going into a season with the backfield of Javonte Williams, Blue. You have Sanders in there. You have Deuce Vaughn as well. These guys aren't necessarily game changers. And Schottenheimer, I know, wants to run a high run offense, but it's just not going to happen. They're going to utilize George Pickens a lot, which Schottenheimer has been raving about and moving him all over the field, which could provide really good volume for him in the passing game, which is something we haven't seen from George Pickens. But out of all these position battles, I think the most interesting ones to watch are the Colts quarterback room and then the Packers receiver room. Finally, we have the contract situations that continue to ongo. We had some massive extensions in the last 2 days, whether that's Rashawn Slater, Jake Ferguson, and Cortland Sutton. Sutton obviously just got the deal today, and that's a big time contract for a player who's going to be 33 at the end of it. And it shows the trust they have in him as the team's wide receiver one. Now, it's not typical wide receiver one money that we just saw Metcalf gift that McLaurin's looking for, but $26 million is no joke, and I think it's a good deal considering the fact you have Bo Nix on a rookie contract. Rashawn Slater, 4-year extension, $114 million. This is a deal the Chargers needed to get done. You had a great tackle locked in with Herbert, Hampton, and McConkey for the next 4 seasons, which is awesome to see. Jake Ferguson gets an extension for the Cowboys, and I think it's hilarious that the team decides to go and pay him. I know it's not the same type of money, but they're prioritizing Jake Ferguson over Micah Parsons at this point, where Parsons is a player that's holding in, and that just kind of shows you what Jerry Jones does with business. I don't think the Micah Parsons situation is great, and Parsons likely will be on his way out of Dallas if they can't figure out something soon. Kyren Williams, James Cook, both players are holding in. I do expect them to suit up this season, but we will see what their production levels will be like if they continue to not necessarily participate a ton in training camp and hold in. Terry McLaurin has also showed up to training camp finally after a no show after the first few days. McLaurin is seeking DK Metcalf money at his almost 30 season, so I don't necessarily know if McLaurin's going to get that type of money, but he's a wide receiver one, and I think a lot of teams would pay him that money. He had a really good year, career high 13 touchdowns last year, but is a hold-in and could slow things down for a Commanders offense that is looking to have a really solid second year under Jaden Daniels' belt. All in all, though, guys, we had a ton of training camp news that you guys need to be paying attention to. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you're looking forward to more training camp content coming out here in the next few weeks. Drop a comment down below what training camp news you want to know more about, and I will catch you guys next time on Blitz Sports Media.